now. Page 184, question.
Number 18.
Number 18.
I don't know what the number is. The right one.
What is the check number? Yeah, I forgot to say this.
Because there's two.
What is the check number Jim used to pay for his home repair bill? The check number is this number usually in the top right-hand corner of the check.
There's two numbers.
Oh, is there two of them up there? It's the top one. So like 073 on that one. I don't know.
Hey, I got it right then.
Is that the right check?
I just picked one.
Yeah. 44.
As soon as you left the room, you were like, Ben, stop messing around, get back in here.
You need Dexter money.
I thought you were on the then I realized it was
Yeah, he goes to the bathroom at the same time.
Other questions? Some of you, I'm going to get grades updated today. Some of you will be sort of unhappy.
I'll probably not be surprised, it's not great.
Other questions? If we continue to have no other questions on 184? If you got makeup work, get that done also while you're in here. All right, what we're going to cover today, check register. Check register is the thing that you keep track of stuff in.
What's the date?
The 8th.
I said,
Does that look blurry? Is it just my eyes?
It looks a little blurry, but I can see what it says.
So check register. It's not, as I was growing up, that's all my mom ever talked about was balancing her checkbook. You guys probably hardly ever even heard it, but I mean that was a constant thing. You got to make sure you keep it balanced so you're not overdrawing and stuff. You're not trying to take out more money than you actually have, and it's sort of hard when you're sending bills off to somebody and you don't know whether that check's cleared when you paid it with this certain check and which check is where. And I know my sons play baseball and we pay a lot of money for them to play baseball. And my wife's always throwing a fit because a summer baseball coach will hold on to a check for like 4 or 5 months. And then all of a sudden, it'll be a check for like $1,000 or something. And my wife's looking at her account balance online, and it tells her how much is in there. Well, after 2 or 3 months, she forgets, hey, that coach has still got that check, so there's $1,000 taken away from this actual total. And then she spends money that we don't have because it's not supposed to be in there, and then all of a sudden that coach decides to cash the check, and we're overdrawn. So you got to be careful. It's especially a big deal now because instead of using checks, what do you use more?
Card.
The card. I've never ever in my life written down in my check register, drew $20 at the ATM, drew out $20 from the ATM. Never written that down, and I'm sure that most people probably don't. All right, I've never seen anybody stand there at the ATM machine and then have their check register out to write down how much they're taking out. So you're counting on the bank or the electronical stuff a lot more to keep track of it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm saying I don't do it. I probably should. This is what a check register looks like, and I should probably carry one around with me all the time. And anytime I draw something out of the ATM, I should write it down so that we have a running balance of what's in there and not just what is we're being told electronically, because some of those checks haven't cleared. There's different things that happen, and we're going to talk about that more next section in this chapter. If it takes dark rule 2 weeks to clear a check or to decide, hey, I'm going to finally cash Wes's check, that money's not in there, even though electronically it still looks like it's in there. So you got to be careful. You're paying $300 there, and all of a sudden you think, oh, I got $300 in here, I can do this, and it's not in there because they're getting ready to cash your check because you paid your bills with it. You got to watch out for that stuff. Even doing it electronically, if they don't ship it back to you, then it just doesn't happen. I know my student loans, which I had for quite a while, my student loans, they sold. What a lot of banks or loan companies do is they sell your loans to somebody else so that they don't have to deal with the paperwork and everything. So my student loans ended up getting sold to somebody in South Dakota. And so now what happened every time is I never knew that it got sold. So I'm mailing the check to the place who I had the student loan through. They're sending that, rerouting that letter, the check, to the other place. By the time it gets to them, I'm late. My payment's late. And this happened like 10 times before I got my student loans paid off from college. So, and I'm calling them and I say, hey, this isn't my fault. I sent this daggone thing off a week before it was due. What am I supposed to do here? And then they explained to me what was going on, that this other company who doesn't care anymore, they don't have nothing to do with me. They weren't worried about resending that check to the other place real quick. That was way down here on their to-do list because they didn't have nothing to do with it. They weren't getting any money out of me, so they didn't care anymore whether I was paying the bill or not. So you gotta, keeping track of it electronically is good, but you gotta make sure that you don't do something silly and have it messed up. So to balance, I checked page 184, fellas, so if you got it, have it out, and I'll check it here in a minute. Nathan, you might want to make sure you get caught up on a couple of assignments, like 180, I think was the other one, 184. Balance is the amount of money that you have in your account. You should balance it all the time. You should keep track of a running total of what you have in there. Couple of formulas here. Nathan, if you didn't get 184 off somebody should do that. 180 is what was due last time. I know Mr. Wendell's classes, if you had taken any of Mr. Wendell's classes, you gotta make sure you know when you're adding, when you're subtracting, what you're depositing in, what you're putting in, what you're taking out. Know the difference. And it gets confusing because you gotta know if you're dealing with like a checking account or if you're dealing with a credit card account, different accounts. Because when you're writing a check for something to put towards a loan that you owe, then that's getting subtracted off from what you owe them, but it's also getting subtracted from your checking account, or the amount of money that you have in your account. So on these two formulas, nothing really difficult about them. You take your previous balance. If it's a check that you're writing out, then that's subtracting, you're subtracting that off. If you're transferring money out, which you do a lot of electronically now, my wife does just about all the bills now online, and a lot of the companies that you go through, they'll give you a break if you do it electronically instead of doing it using paper. The bank down at Eaton told me I had to do everything electronically, or they were going to start charging me a bunch of money for fees if I kept doing the paper stuff, which now I'm thinking I'm going to go back and pay the fees, because every time I try to do stuff electronically, I can't get into the account. I think we talked about this last time. They changed the password on me and everything. I could never get in there to figure out what the account balance is. So those are all things you're subtracting off. ATM withdrawals, any kind of checks, any kind of other things that you're putting out there. So you got to make sure that you're subtracting those off. Deposits, direct deposits, all those things are getting added on. So you got to know when to add, when to subtract. Doesn't take a whole lot. You just got to stop and think, okay, is this money that I'm putting into my account, or is it money that is getting taken away from my account? Again, this is what a check register looks like. And you just write down what each thing's for, put a date on it, and it's got two columns here. The first column is money that's taken out of your account. And the second column is money that you're depositing into the account. All right, on this, we're going to do this together. If we had all of these deposits and withdrawals, I'm going to show you how to do it on a check register that I have on the screen up here in a second. Alex will help us out. There's a copy of it, Alex, so that we have it all copied down there, right? I'll show you how to fill out the check register. First thing, anytime you're starting a new check register, up here at the top, it's got this extra line up here. That's your balance from the previous page, so you just transfer it over. What's it tell us our starting balance was, Alex?
$525.86.
How about your calculators? 86 cents?
Yeah.
How about your calculators so you can help us do this? This number here, NO, is your check number if it's a check. The date, that's sort of self-explanatory. Then you write some kind of description in here. Tell what it was for or what you were doing, whatever. Then you got payments. Notice this even tells you, goes back to the dumbing down of America. They put this in here so that way Colby can't mess it up. What are you doing with these numbers in this column? You're minusing them. What do you do with these numbers? Add them. They don't think that you're intelligent enough to remember that on your own, so they put plus and minus in there for you. What's the first one say?
182, or check 182.
So we write that right here, 182.
And then
Doesn't have the date. All right, so let's just make up a date. 11/8. We're gonna put 11.8 on everything.
Alright.
And it doesn't say what it's for.
No.
So somebody tell me, what do you think this check's for? Make up something, let's go.
It will.
Huh?
Nothing. School.
School? School fees, we'll say. How much was it?
57. 67.
So, this is a check, we're paying school fees, so it's gonna go here, $57.62, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Now, each time, and you don't have to do this every time, I like to do it, if you see my check register, I like to do it, Simon, you with me? I like to do it on mine and put in the numbers every single time, but sometimes you can see I get lazy and I skipped a bunch there, but here I put them in every time. So put in that total. If you keep the running total, you can do it, or you can skip a few and do them all at once. That's up to you. Somebody help us out. Let's go ahead and do it every time. What's 525.86 minus 57.62?
500 or $458.30.
34. What's the next thing they tell us?
Check 183. And it didn't say date, right?
Doesn't say date. We'll put again this date.
And that's it after that.
Make up something there.
And then
Since they didn't tell us all of it.
30, and then it doesn't say date, right? But it's $32.05.
So since it's a check, we're right now $32 and how much?
5 cents.
5 cents. Somebody subtract that for us. What do we get there? Haley, you with me?
Yeah.
Don't seem like it.
$426, $429.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Next one, what's it say?
ATM withdrawal. 40, and that's it.
And how much?
$40 and $40.
$40. What's an ATM withdrawal? Is that gonna be, we're gonna be adding or subtracting?
Adding.
If you're
Oh wait, no, I
withdrawing,
thought
you're
it's the
taking it out.
deposit. Sorry. Yeah.
So that means it goes in this column. Somebody do that math for us.
$389.29.
Say it again.
$389.29.
Notice out here, does it have a check number? And if it's an ATM withdrawal, you might even put on their ATM, and you might put something like, I don't know, whatever you were doing that day, what you needed that $40 for. Maybe you were going to the grocery or something. This is where people get themselves in trouble because they don't keep track of this stuff.
Check 184. And then that's and then that's everything for that.
Yeah, so whatever it was for.
And then $325.
Where's that go?
That check. Yeah.
325 even?
Yeah.
Somebody help us out. What's that?
64. And 29 or something. What? 29 or something.
29 then.
Oh, yeah, 29, my bad.
I think it's a 29.
I was so confused.
Next, what's it say next? I think that's right.
Check 185. That's 185.
Check 185 and then it says void. I do this a lot when I mess up. Mess up on a check and you have to tear it up or something. You need to write that in there in your check register, because if not, when you get back your canceled checks, or when the bank sends you a list of your canceled checks and that check's not there, and if you don't remember what you did with it, then you don't know if you lost it or if you wrote it to somebody and it just hasn't cleared yet, or what the deal is. What's the next one?
Check 186.
What would it be like?
There's nothing in the middle. And then 285, 258, no, $258.
What are we gonna do with that? Subtract it? It was probably already like that, but don't know you're right. I got many shirts, what's that, Lace? Thank you. What'd it come out to be?
Negative 194 and 30 cents.
What's that tell us?
You're overdrawn. You
We're
spent-
overdrawn.
You spent more money than you had.
Alright? So we gotta really watch. You can't get to that point, because now all of a sudden, this check, the bank's gonna get this check, and if you haven't put money in there before they get it, they're gonna ship it back to the company. The bank's gonna charge you $50, $100, something for overdrawing your account, which always makes a whole lot of sense. You don't have any money in your account, and then they're gonna charge you $100
For not having money.
for not having money in the account. Alright? Money, you already don't have any money, and they're gonna try to charge you more. So they're gonna charge you that. The company that they're sending it back to is gonna now charge you a late fee and probably a processing fee for having to go through the headache of redoing the check, trying to get a hold of you and everything. So all of a sudden, this $258 bill, whatever it is all of a sudden maybe going to cost you $300 or $400. Probably more than that, $400 or $500. What's the next one say?
Direct deposit. $732.45 in direct deposit.
And where does that go at?
Next one,
All right, that goes in this one. 700 and what?
$32.45.
And I'm hoping that all you guys get to the point you're out in the real world and have a job and everything, and you don't ever have to worry about this. But Ebersole sort of lives from check to check most of the time, and I have to know if I'm making this bill payment here for $258, whatever it is, whether it's a car payment or whatever, I'm making that payment. I'm probably holding off writing that check until that day I know that direct deposit's gonna go in, and that direct deposit's gonna be in there before they actually get the bill, or get the check sent back to the bank. What's that give us? 0.15? Yeah. Now, we're back on the positive side, and if you can do that, if you can keep it balanced and not get this company here to send that check so quick, then you might be all right, as long as that direct deposit's going in there that quickly. What's the next one?
ATM withdrawal. And then $20.
No more of that. What's that gonna give us?
518.15. deposit. $25.
Maybe this is $25, that sounds like it might be something like, maybe your granny sent you a birthday check for $25, something. Where do we put that at?
Deposit.
543,
Alright, and then check, 187. $15.
What is it?
$15.98.
$15.98. Whatever it was for. What's that give us?
547.
Now, one thing I will say on this, usually, and if you looked at my check register, a lot of times in a check register, you skip a line, just so it's not getting so clumped together and everything. So if you look at mine, I don't use every line in the check register. This one up here I have because we're doing the same thing over and over again. But I do every other line. You might do that. Check registries aren't hard to come by. You just ask your bank for one, they'll give you one so you can use up as many as you can.
Withdrawal.
Just says withdrawal. If it's a withdrawal, then which column is it going in?
Payment debit.
Payment debit here,
And then it's $50.
50. 477.17. Then what?
ATM withdrawal. $20.
And then if we get down to the bottom here, and we're not gonna do any more, and that's the end of it right now, that's all we have on this thing. We get down to the bottom and you go on to the next page of your check registry. Then you transfer that right over to here, and you just start the whole thing all over again. So it's just keeping track of stuff. Again, the main thing is to know whether you're adding or subtracting that certain amount, whatever it's for. That's your assignment, page 187, 3 through 21. We working any of these together, or are you working them on your own? On your own?
Said 187.
Yeah, you know the drill.
I know, that's what I'm thinking here, that's why it's annoying me. Did you hear me say all that? You like to eat and stuff in here, and it's all right. I thought I was being nice to you, and then I'm up there talking, and you're back here talking, and.
It's over here.
See what I'm saying?
No, that's not a small price.
I don't mind it, we eat.
Oh, what do you do?
Well, I mean, maybe it was summer school.
Dude, I've taken world history 3 times.
No, because I'll let you know about
I did the same
it.
thing.
Elijah, you have 184?
It's like he
Yes.
won't let you,
I'm gonna.
unless you really find it. Like Adam, spot.
Give me some beanies.
You'll come back on and
It's
do
not that
look
it
out
lasts
north,
more,
right?
it's just that they're better dealing with it. And like who can.
I don't have to be a jerk, do I? You guys are gonna get this done, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Telling you, next time, if there's this many zeros again next class, then we're gonna sit in here in silence each day when we have time like this. So get it done, then you can do all the talking you want.